Have you ever asked yourself, why do I care so deeply about everyone else, but when it comes to me, it feels like nobody notices, nobody checks in, nobody truly cares? If you're an empath, that question is probably the soundtrack of your life. And here's the truth. It's not because you're unworthy. It's not because people are heartless. It's because somewhere along the way, you were trained to believe that your safety and your value depended on taking care of everyone else. Carl Jung noticed this pattern again and again in his patients. He worked with people who spent their entire lives being the psychological caretaker in their families. These were the children who grew up in unstable, toxic households, where the parents were unpredictable, fighting, depressed, or emotionally absent. Instead of being allowed to play, dream, or explore, these children were recruited, without consent, into roles like the peacekeeper, the mediator, the emotional sponge. Jung saw that they had learned to read every subtle shift in the room: a sigh, a slammed door, a silence that carried tension. They knew before anyone said a word if a storm was coming. And the tragic part is that in order to survive, they had to set aside their own needs. They learned that expressing anger, sadness, or even joy could make things worse. So they buried those emotions deep inside and put on a mask of calm, helpfulness, and maturity. That child became the adult empath, someone who knows everyone else's mood better than their own. But Jung warned, whatever we push into the unconscious doesn't disappear. It lives there, in the shadow. And the shadow of the empath is this deep, aching belief. If I don't take care of you, I will be abandoned. I will not be loved. This is why empaths care too much. It's not a personality quirk. It's a survival strategy that once saved them as children. But as adults, it often creates the exact opposite of what they long for. When you give and give, people get comfortable taking. And when you hide your needs, others stop seeing them altogether. Jung worked with patients who had breakdowns because of this imbalance. He described people who lived in constant service to others, but secretly, beneath their kind exterior, they felt unseen, resentful, even invisible. He helped them realize that their compulsive caring wasn't pure altruism. It was also fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being irrelevant. Fear of what would happen if they said no. And what's really interesting is that many of these empaths, because of this programming, felt magnetically drawn to therapy, nursing, healing, or spiritual guidance. It made sense. They had decades of experience in saving others. But Jung noticed that sometimes their entire identity got fused with this role. They became the helper, not because their soul truly wanted it, but because their trauma demanded it. And that's why, later in life, many awakened empaths suddenly quit the therapy or healing path altogether. They realize, I don't actually want to spend my life rescuing people. I want to live. I want to create. I want to discover who I am when I'm not holding up everyone else's world. In this video, I'm going to reveal not only why this happens, but also how you can break the cycle, so you're not doomed to care for everyone except yourself. By the end, you'll understand the psychology, the shadow work, and the spiritual tools to start receiving the same love and care you've been giving away your whole life. In the meantime, if it hits home, drop a comment below. Maybe share an affirmation like, "My needs matter too." That way, we create a community where empaths don't feel so alone. Because here's the paradox Jung pointed out. The very thing that made you survive as a child, the ability to attune to everyone else, becomes the very thing that makes you invisible as an adult. And unless you face that shadow, you'll keep repeating the cycle. Think about how this plays out in adult life. Empaths often find themselves in one-sided relationships where they pour oceans of love, time, and energy into another person, yet receive just drops back. It's not that others are always malicious, it's that the empath has been unconsciously trained to tolerate imbalance. When you're used to putting your own needs last, neglect feels familiar. Jung observed that the unconscious drives us toward what is unhealed. So the empath who grew up in a home where love was conditional will often choose partners, friends, or bosses who replay that same script. I will give everything to you, and in return, I hope you'll finally notice me. But notice what happens. The empath becomes exhausted, resentful, and sometimes bitter. And still, their needs remain unseen. This is where shadow work becomes crucial. The shadow isn't just the dark side, it's everything you had to hide to survive. For the empath, that hidden part is often their own anger, their longing to be cared for, their desire to rest, their need to be selfish sometimes. Jung saw that healing begins when those exiled parts are welcomed back. Until then, the empath is stuck being the caretaker for everyone else, while their own inner child is starving for love. Many empaths also find themselves in jobs where they are undervalued. They're the co-workers who keep the team emotionally stable, the ones who listen, soothe, and prevent conflicts. Yet rarely do they get the promotions or recognition because their role is invisible. It's about holding the space for others. And so the cycle continues, caring for everyone, receiving little in return. Now you might ask, why don't people notice empaths? Because when you never voice your needs, when you smile while you're breaking inside, when you keep saying, I'm fine even when you're not, others believe you. People respond to what you show, not what you hide. And the empath, by training, hides everything. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies on codependency and attachment show that children who had to care for unstable parents often develop what's called fawning. Instead of fight or flight, they survive through pleasing. As adults, they struggle to set boundaries because deep down they fear that if they stop giving, they'll be abandoned. And here's the hidden twist. Sometimes the empath's constant giving actually pushes people away. When you take responsibility for everyone's emotions, you unconsciously send the message, I don't trust you to handle your own life. And that can feel suffocating to others. This is why, ironically, the empath can feel rejected even though they've given everything. Jung had a patient who embodied this. She was a woman who had devoted her life to her family, suppressing her own ambitions. Outwardly, she was loved and respected. Inwardly, she felt invisible, drained, and deeply unfulfilled. Jung helped her see that her compulsive caregiving wasn't pure love. It was a mask hiding her fear of rejection. When she began to reclaim her shadow, the parts of her that wanted independence, expression, and even conflict, her relationships shifted. She was no longer just the caretaker. She became a whole person. This brings us to a hard but liberating truth. Empathy without boundaries is self-abandonment. You cannot pour endlessly into others without drying up inside. True compassion must include yourself, or else it's not compassion, it's compulsion. So if you've ever wondered why no one seems to care for you the way you care for them, it's not because you're unlovable, it's because you've been conditioned to erase your needs. And until you reclaim them, others can't see them either. This is where the awakening begins for many empaths. At some point, the exhaustion, the resentment, and the quiet ache inside becomes too heavy to ignore. They start asking, what about me? What do I actually want? Who am I when I'm not saving everyone else? Carl Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming your true self, rather than the role your childhood forced on you. Individuation requires a confrontation with the shadow, and for empaths, that shadow often contains the parts of themselves they've labeled as selfish, angry, or too much. Jung would say, those rejected parts are not your enemy. They're the missing pieces of your wholeness. This is why many empaths, after becoming self-aware, walk away from the very roles they once thought were their destiny. You'll see it often. A therapist who suddenly decides to paint, a nurse who leaves to become a writer, a healer who opens a bakery. To outsiders, it looks like they're abandoning their gift. But in reality, they're liberating themselves from a program that said their worth only comes from helping others. Here's the shadow side. If your identity is built solely on being the caretaker, you can never stop. You'll feel guilty resting, guilty saying no, guilty choosing yourself. But guilt is not your intuition. It's the echo of conditioning. And if you listen too closely, it will keep you enslaved. Let's be clear. Empaths can be extraordinary healers. Their sensitivity, intuition, and compassion are real gifts. But Jung would remind us that gifts become curses when they dominate the personality. You are more than your empathy. You are a full human being with desires, creativity, boundaries, and even darkness. To only live as the helper is to live half a life. So what do you do if you recognize yourself in this? Step 1. Acknowledge the shadow. Admit to yourself that sometimes you help because you're afraid of being rejected if you don't. That doesn't make you bad. It makes you human. By bringing this motive into awareness, you begin to loosen its grip. Step 2. Experiment with small boundaries. Start by saying no in places that feel safe. Notice how the world doesn't collapse when you protect your energy. In fact, often people respect you more when you stop overgiving. Step 3. Practice receiving. This one is hard for empaths, but powerful. When someone offers help, don't deflect. Don't say, I'm fine. Practice saying yes. Receiving is a muscle, and the more you use it, the more natural it becomes. Step 4. Reconnect with joy. Jung noticed that when his patients began integrating their shadow, they didn't just feel more balanced, they rediscovered play, creativity, and a sense of freedom. So ask yourself, what lights me up that has nothing to do with fixing anyone? Dance, write, garden, or travel. Whatever makes your soul feel alive. Step 5. Seek relationships where reciprocity exists. If you're always the giver, you'll feel drained. If you're always the taker, you'll feel guilty. But when care flows both ways, it heals the nervous system. It shows the empath child inside of you that love doesn't have to be earned by sacrificing yourself. One of Jung's patients, a man who spent years caring for a domineering parent, eventually realized his deepest wound wasn't that others didn't care for him. It was that he never allowed them to. His mask of strength, his refusal to show vulnerability, made him untouchable. When he finally admitted, I need care too, his relationships transformed. For the first time, he let people in. And that's the heart of this whole journey. Empaths don't actually need to stop caring. They need to start including themselves in the circle of their own compassion. Because if your heart can hold the suffering of others, surely it can hold your own. So let me ask you, what's one thing you've denied yourself because you were too busy caring for others? Share it in the comments. Your answer might help someone else feel less alone. Or, if that feels too vulnerable, write an affirmation like, I deserve the same care I give. Put it out into the world and let it anchor into your mind. Because the truth is, when an empath begins to care for themselves, they don't lose their gift. They refine it. Their empathy becomes cleaner, stronger, and freer. They stop rescuing people out of fear and start connecting from love. So, if you've carried the weight of everyone else's emotions your whole life, know this: you don't have to keep carrying it. Your soul is not here to be everyone's parent, healer, or savior. Your soul is here to be whole, and wholeness includes you.